This is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNNLive, and we're here at the 2016 LD Micro Invitational in Bel Air, California. With me right now is Sanjay Sabnani from CrowdGather. It's a publicly traded company with the symbol CRWG. Sanjay, welcome back to SNNLive.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program. So for our audience, let's start off with an overview, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, CrowdGather's been going through a lot of changes, but to simplify it right now, our focus is simply this. We are going to stick to our mission of gathering the crowd, but we're aiming it at the cannabis market, right? We've identified that cannabis is one of the biggest markets right now, growing. Significant opportunity with Canada and Mexico looking to legalize it lockstep with the United States. So what we've done is taken our expertise in the online community space. We're going to gather the crowd online through a network of forums and message board communities, leading with WeedTracker, a site that we bought last year and we talked about. And then offline, we're going to gather the crowd through physical forums. We're actually entering, we just announced today, the cannabis co-working office space market. Right? There's a tremendous need for people in that industry. Startups all use co-working now. It's a fast-growing market. In cannabis, it's even more compelling because a lot of people judge these businesses, so they want to be together. So in September, we anticipate, depending on this funding that we're working on, that we're going to be launching our first co-working space in North Hollywood, California this fall.
Okay, so in that overview, you know, kind of got a lot of what's going on in the company, but is there anything else that you can update us on? It's been a while since we had you on the program.
Sure. So in order to get to this point where we are, where we have two simple businesses, we've had to move mountains to do this, right? We had a gaming subsidiary we acquired 2.5 years ago. It grew on us amazingly. It doubled in revenues. We couldn't get funding for it. The only funding available to us was Wall Street toxic financing. We took on about $600,000 of that, and painfully, myself and some of my family have repaid over $1.3 million in order to keep the company whole and not letting the stock crater. Now that we've cleaned that up, we sold the gaming business for $3.5 million, got rid of the majority of our debt. We're still cash poor, but this morning we announced the first closing in a financing we're doing. So we brought in $125,000 of maximum $350,000. It's a very small round. I'm converting $100,000 that I lent the company into the round. My board and officers, 2 former CFOs, the current CFO, and 2 directors, they're all putting in money that they've lent the company into this round, right? So we're basically going in directly ourselves to try and help the company get to the next step. Once we raise another $100,000 to $200,000, we will have all the capital we need to get to break even and profitability by this fall in 2 very simple businesses. But it's been 2 years of, like I said, moving a lot of dirt to get where we are, where we can be a simple business. Our sites right now do about 60 million page views a month. About 500,000 to 600,000 in revenue. So that's the base that we're building off of. But we have positive shareholders' equity. We've been public for 8 years, and we have over 5,000 shareholders still that are waiting for their turn, right? As am I. So I think now is our turn.
So, for those who may not know some of the websites, catch us up. Tell me a little bit about WeedTracker and some of your other properties.
So last year we acquired WeedTracker, which is a pretty notable community in the cannabis space. They go back to 2005. And what's interesting is they don't even have a mobile app because they were before the whole mobile and app days. The owner of that site was not able to procure funding, so last year, we're friends, right? I said, look, let us take it over and let's rebuild it. Up until this funding we just announced today and the cleanup with the gaming, we haven't had the resources. So we're going to be relaunching WeedTracker. In our other sites, we own a site called rapmusic.com. On Google, we're always number 1 or number 2 organically for the phrase rap music. We own a site called Sneaker Talk. We have some very leading free community builders, yuku.com, free forums, Former. So we already know what we're doing in the website business. We're just aiming it at this green vertical, which we think makes our lives easier because, hey, building websites for cannabis now is like building websites at the time Jesus was serving wine, right? There's a long life cycle for intoxicants, so we think there's plenty of room to grow.
So basically, the way in which you're going about it, are you like just doing a simple search on Google Ad search and just seeing what keywords are kind of coming up a lot and then kind of constructing a website around that and then building the community there? Is that somewhat of the secret sauce? Kind of?
Yes and no. What we've identified is that forums, our category of social media, works great for cannabis because the rest of the internet, everyone's using their real name, their identities. But cannabis, if your child has a condition or you have a condition, you don't want to be Googled for that, right? If you're a grower trying to grow a particular strain to help some patient with a condition, you want to talk to other experts. You don't want your real name involved, right? Because the federal illegality of this situation, despite the state legality, creates a strange dynamic, right? So we think forums is where everyone will go to discuss. Because we're experts in that space, we have a lot of insights as to what we think people will want, and we're laying low on what those are, but I think you'll see some compelling things. But at the end of the day, every disease, every demographic has a need to discuss in cannabis and forums. We think they align very nicely. There's also tremendous interest in cannabis from investors, right? So as we gather this crowd, we're finding that a lot of them are asking us if we have a co-working space or we're using our traffic for startups, are there opportunities for them to co-invest or participate? So we're building a platform, and we want our shareholders very much to be involved with what we do.
So tell me a little bit about this co-working space that you guys are working on. I mean, is there going to be any kind of growing component to it, or is it more just for admin, operational?
Perfect question, right? So the dream, we would love nothing more than to have a building that has a licensed grow, licensed dispensary, and a manufactory where you've got a kitchen and extraction. Because then the businesses you could put there would be compelling. That's a dream right now, because that would be illegal in every type of way, shape, and form based on current law. So aspirationally, we'd like to get to those real co-working spaces. Prior to that, we think having themed office spaces aimed at this vertical with our background, the fact that we're authentically from the space. I run the largest cannabis meetup in the San Fernando Valley where I live and where CrowdGather is. I've already mentioned it to our members, and I have tenants already lined up. I've got to get the place ready because it's really been that easy. There's that much demand, right? Millennials, I have 3 teenage daughters. Millennials don't want a phone line or a fax line, or, they don't know how that stuff works. Right, business cards.
No fax line.
No, business cards is beyond their stuff. They want a place where you can go in your pajamas, drink your coffee, and hang out with other people that are doing what you're doing. And that's what we want to provide in the cannabis space. Right, we're going to do it first in North Hollywood, but LA is a big enough market, so we feel fortunate that we could bang out a few locations here before we go to the other states. So it's a very simple business, but it is gathering the crowd. It's just physically.
So what I want to know is what are the growth drivers for the business? Where do you see, you have multiple segments going on in the company. Where do you see most of the growth coming from?
It's hard to tell right now because we were focused on the gaming asset to the expense of our sites, right? We bet everything on gaming. Our sites decreased in traffic and revenue. So we think without trying very hard, we can double the publishing business. Even without a cannabis angle, we just think having the money we raised today and having some focus on it will lift it. Co-working is almost an unlimited growth potential, right? Because if you look at companies like WeWork out there, they're growing at a very rapid rate. It seems that almost every old office building is kind of being remixed into co-working. The challenge is that the startup space is very saturated. The cannabis space is wide open, right? There's one out of Colorado, I think Canopy Boulder, that they've got an accelerator, and I think they have office space. Gateway out of Oakland has an incubator. I'm an advisor to Gateway, so they have office co-working space. And we're talking long-term about how to build this as a business, and there may be more co-involvement. Right now, we're just doing our own because we want to get our feet wet and start scaling and learning how that business goes.
So what are some of the, from what you can tell me, what are some of the milestones and catalysts for the company that our investor audience should be looking out for?
Okay, first and foremost is we've got $125,000 into this round. We need about $100,000 or more, and then we're capitalized. So the first milestone would be when you see that we've brought in the next 100 to 200,000, right? When this round is done, then we have the budget for creating WeedTracker's mobile app and also launching our first co-working space. So that's very significant. The next milestone will be in September, and we anticipate being done with the funding soon. Next milestone will be in September, where we want to have our first location, right? And from there, everything will track. In essence, what we've reshaped our business into doing is so simple and such low-hanging fruit that I see us growing multiples of where we currently are, which is only a few $100,000, before we really have to examine it. And with the share price where it is, we're a little over a penny, and the financings we're doing are at a penny, right? So right now the market is very close to where myself and other investors believe the company is more than fairly valued. So I think there's upside for everyone from these levels, right? But since we've spent 2 years liquidating, getting rid of assets, laying off people, today is the first day, just talking to you, that we've actually had a positive thing to say. And I think it only continues to get better.
So where can our audience go and find more information about the company?
CrowdGather.com. You can follow me also on Twitter, CrowdGather. I'm pretty active there. And honestly, it's not hard. You know, if you just follow our ticker, you will see a lot of developments coming up.
My name is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNNLive, and we're here at the 2016 LD Micro Invitational in Bel Air, California. With me again has been Sanjay Sabnani from CrowdGather. It's a publicly traded company, the symbol CRWG. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.